What's good, Travelhourljm family? We are back again. It is season 2, episode 3, and we've got a great guest today here to talk to y'all. And so, Nonchalant Nat is going to be joining us. Super excited to have this guest today because Natalie has not only just traveled the world, but she's also lived abroad in Poland for a few years. So she's going to talk to us a little bit about her experiences being over there abroad in Poland and doing the thing. And so, super excited about her. And then obviously super excited just to be back here today with the Travelhourljm family. We have been on the move. Matthew and I have been making moves. We've been out. We've been doing different things. And so always good to kind of come back, center yourself, ground yourself, and get back to the family and just chop it up a little bit. So I know y'all want to know what's going on in the world, and a lot is going on because we are on the cusp of summer. So yes, y'all, I'm in Houston, Texas, and it is officially like 2-shower minimum season in Houston. It's hot as hell, y'all. I am dying out here. The humidity is crazy. And so although I love living in Houston, Texas, this Texas humidity ain't no joke. But I'm going to make it, though. Y'all pray for me, all right? While things are heating up, we want to talk about summer travel. And so one of the things that we did here is that summer travel is here and them flight prices are going up. So one of the things that we were looking at for flight prices is that even though flight prices aren't predicted to be as high as they were last summer, they are predicted to be higher than they have been in previous years. So it's still going to cost you a pretty penny to travel, especially when you're flying as well. One of the things that we looked at is that for some reason, Europe is one of the hottest places to be right now. And so a lot of folks are booking flights to Europe, and the flight costs for Europe are up right now. One is due to the jet fuel cost. The other thing is due to there's a shortage of aircraft controllers up in the towers in Europe. And so there's going to be a shortage, and for that, they've got to readjust the flight schedule. So if you're traveling to Europe or if you plan on doing some summer travel, you definitely want to go ahead and get your stuff booked. Definitely may want to consider some alternate routes as well. Maybe booking with budget airlines throughout the summer since summer is here and the demand is high. So we'll definitely keep you all posted on that. The other thing we want to talk about and touch on a little bit is what the travel price will look like. Yeah. And so, yes, flying is going to be one of the biggest things getting to where you're going. But one of the other things they've looked at is that it's also going to cost more for you to stay there, right? So I don't know if you noticed, we started looking at the consumer prices, right? Airbnbs are up, hotels are up. Even staying in hostels is a cheaper option, have increased as well for summer travel. And so some of these things that we're looking at are going to be a little bit different. And so just make sure the biggest thing is like, hey, like if you haven't had a chance to book your flights and you plan on going somewhere for the summer, it may be a little harder for you to find some of these places to get there as cheap as you thought you would get. But some of the things that you can do is try booking other less popular known locations. For example, like if you ever were going to Europe, one of the easiest ways is to book a flight, get to London, and then once you get to Europe, it's kind of easy to hop around to different countries for a pretty reasonable price. One of my low budget air carriers that I love is going to be EasyJet. EasyJet be saving my life when I go to Europe. So definitely keep that in mind as we gear up for international travel and domestic travel throughout the summer. Finally, I did want to touch on some of the things that have been going on in the U.S. And so I do understand that I came home from London last week and haven't been home yet a week. And here we are with another mass shooting in the U.S. and this time right in my backyard. So this happened up in Allen, Texas, right outside of Dallas. And there was a gunman who ended up going into the mall and fatally shooting several victims. And it's just kind of disturbing to hear this news because at the end of the day, we live in a country with a lot of resources, a lot of smart individuals, but for some reason, we just can't figure out like how to start curbing gun violence. And it's just insane, right? One of the things that kind of stuck out to me when I was in Europe was that it was extremely peaceful, especially as being a Black man, walking around Europe in the streets at night, riding the train by myself, going out to different restaurants and things like that. There was a different feeling in the air, right? And so I think that's super important to point out. When you travel, it makes you see things in a different light. And one of the things that I'm starting to realize is that America isn't the safest place to be for Black folks, in my opinion, in my experiences, right? And so hopefully these folks can get some of these things in control. And it's funny because when we look at what's going on in the United States, right, we had 2 representatives from the State House in Tennessee who were expelled from their jobs for speaking up against gun violence. And yet here we are a few weeks later, another mass shooting. And so hopefully something resonates. It's crazy that, mothers had to get the phone call that their kids are not coming home because of the senseless violence. And so I hope and really just, saying implore our folks to really step up, our lawmakers and things to do something about gun violence here in America. Um, and on that note, definitely getting ready to shout out our mothers. I want to shout out my grandmother, who is mom, grandma, everything else in between, because we are on the eve of Mother's Day. And I also want to shout out my mother, wish her a happy heavenly birthday that was passed on Sunday. And so for all the folks out there celebrating Mother's Day, definitely wish y'all the best from the Travel Hour family, and definitely wish all the mothers out there who are doing what they're doing, and wouldn't be nowhere without y'all. So appreciate y'all. But without further ado, I want to bring on our guest, Miss Nonchalant Nat, aka Natalie Harris, to talk to us about a little bit about Poland.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How's it going?
It's going well. It's going well.
Look, Natalie, I'm just happy to have you on the show. I know we had a chance to, we actually knew each other mutually through one of our friends, Antoinette. And so it's crazy because I was on a trip last year in Greece. You just happened to be in Greece as well for the next level trip. And so we was able to connect in person there. And since there, I was able to learn that you had a YouTube channel. And from there, I definitely started following YouTube channel, learned a lot. And so just want to give you kudos and props first and foremost. For one, like moving halfway across the world, and number two, like just doing the damn thing and showing that experience on YouTube.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. The YouTube thing took a lot of convincing. I never thought I would be a YouTube person or influencer, but I did feel that a lot of people had no idea why I was moving to Poland. My family didn't even, I would say some of my family didn't even know where Poland was on the map. And it was to the point where they were like, why are you going? Like, why can't you just stay here? And I wanted to share that experience of it's actually a really dope country. It's different. It wouldn't be one of your top bucket list places to go, but I do think that it's worth going at least once in your lifetime.
Gotcha. And I've definitely like followed your channel and saw some of the different things. Like the only pierogies I knew about was like Miss T's pierogies beforehand, right? Get them in a little pack from Aldi's and heat them up. But you was out there in the land of pierogies, right? And so
Yes, yes,
I
and
know.
you would be surprised the different flavors they have. Like it was actually ridiculous.
No, that's super dope. But first and foremost, like how in the world? Well, no, let's back up. So where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? Tell us about your upbringing.
Okay, so I'm from Staten Island, New York, born and raised here. I went to the illustrious Hampton University, and I moved back to New York after school. And I would say I was working for an investment bank, which I'll get into, like how I ended up in Poland a little later. But that's who really kind of introduced me to Poland because we had an office there and just met really good colleagues and always wanted to go, so then had the opportunity to go.
That's dope. So as you know, Natalie went to the real HU. We can argue that later.
Thank you.
But Natalie went to HU, and you got into your career. And so what's funny is like, I work for a bank that has like offices overseas and things like that. And sometimes I'll be looking like, dang, it would be dope to like go to the London office and work there, right? Now, I have never had the courage to pull the trigger. So what made you get your courage up to like say, hey, like Poland is realistic to me?
Okay, so it starts back in 2016 when basically I was asked to go out there to Krakow for 3 months to teach US processes and procedures. So at that point, we had an overnight shift here in the US and we were trying to get rid of it and basically bring on this 24-hour model. So I was like, yeah, go to Poland. I'll go. I have no obligations here. Um, so I went. And I would say that was the best 3 months I could experience in my 20s. They their lifestyle is just very different. They were going to the square every day. I mean, people were just super open. And I would say those 3 months I made like lifelong friends. And 2 years later, one of the supervisors who I worked with invited me to her wedding. And at that time, I was with a new team. So I was able to go back to Poland, meet my new team for 2 weeks, and go to a authentic Polish wedding, which is nothing like a US wedding. It was 9 courses of food. It went until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I think I left the I would say the reception and like went to I think I had like a 9 a.m. flight, which I do not recommend that at all. But basically it was eat, drink, party, repeat 9 times. So that was in 2018. So I would say end of 2019, I was ready for a next step in my career. I was looking for something different, and I was just periodically checking open positions. And one that really interests me was based in Poland. Now, I called HR first just to ask, like, can I apply? Like, is there any kind of stipulation? And the only thing she said was, well, you might not get it because they would probably hire someone locally. And I was like, okay, well, that's any job, right? You might not get it. So I applied, I interviewed, and I think within 2 days they got back to me and they were like, if you're willing to come, like, we'll bring you here. And I think that's when it got real, where I was like, what did I just do? Because it was an opportunity I couldn't say no to. I knew it would completely alter my career, like having that international experience, having international managerial experience, being able to live in another country. Like I knew the opportunity I couldn't say no to. So it was a decision that I just had to kind of figure it out. I own my house here in New York. I care for my father, so I had to figure out something like who can, now care for my father while I'm gone. I didn't have an end date. It was kind of, if I ever wanted to come back, I could. And I think that kind of helped me make my decision where it was a big uproot, but if I didn't like it or if I didn't feel comfortable, like I can always come home. And yeah, so I just packed up my stuff and went.
So when you talk about packing up your stuff, right? Like, what the hell does that look like?
Oh, and that's a very good question because one thing I will strongly recommend, don't ever do it yourself because I tried to be cheap and I tried to do it myself and I tried to pack my stuff up and go to the post office and ship. I think I shipped maybe 12 boxes. It was like something ridiculous, like 12 or 15 boxes. And it was ridiculous. Like I was so upset at myself for doing it when I should have just hired someone. I really should have. And mostly I brought clothes because I was like, I'm going here for work. Um, I brought, I didn't bring my apartment there was fully furnished. So I didn't need to bring like any kind of like heavy like furniture or anything. But it was, I brought like little knickknacks, some things that would remind me of home. Um, but yeah, it was mostly, and I have a lot of clothes, so it was mostly clothes. But yeah, it really was not worth doing it myself. Like just the time, the effort, the money, like it was not worth it at all. I definitely recommend getting a moving company. If anyone is moving across the Atlantic, I have a great company I use to move back here where they packed my stuff up, they shipped it. It did take about 6 to 8 weeks, but it was seamless. Like it was great. And it was roughly about the same amount that I spent to ship my stuff myself, which made me even more upset that I did it myself. But I definitely would recommend getting a moving company and move your stuff if you're going across country, across the Atlantic at least.
Yeah, that's a lot to consider. Like, I still be like lost as far as like what should I really take, right?
And something that I could mention that was actually really interesting was you don't think you need everything. Like, well, I would say, how can I rephrase this? I bought so much clothes because I was like, I'm going to be working, I'm going to be traveling, I'm going to be doing all these things. when one, I moved at the end of February. So 2 weeks later, everything shut down. So all those clothes that I brought, didn't wear probably half of them. And it's also a different culture. So I live in New York, the fashion capital of the world. So I have all these looks that I want to do, where there it's really just like jeans and sneakers. Like I was overdressed at every event, every day. And I'm okay with that. But for some people that, you just don't need to bring all of that.
Yeah, I feel you. You know, you be doing, especially in Europe. Like, I don't know if the unofficial dress code is black, but when you show up and you the only one, like, damn, I got on these bright ass clothes, and everybody else got on black. I'm like, man, all right.
Yeah, that's me. Like my friends would always say, yeah, we saw you coming down the street. It's like, yeah, I know.
That's me. I stick out. It's cool, you know. But I think that's super important as we talk about it, right? And so you talked about moving that part of the logistical piece, right? But then there's also another aspect too, is like, you know, I call it the what's my show? Fresh Prince of Bel Air moment, right? Where it's like, damn, like this is really set in, right? Where, you know, Will's walking around the house like this is really it, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
like when you get to, you know, Krakow, you're like, I'm here, I'm by myself. This is really it. Like, can you walk us through like what you was feeling like, and how did you start to like build connections or community?
So I can start by saying when I first got there, it was funny because I was moving into my apartment, and a package got delivered that looked like one of my packages. So I was like, "Excuse me," I was like, "Is that for Natalie?" And they were like, "You're Natalie?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they opened up the closet, and it was like 10 more boxes of my stuff. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing." But I think once I got there, it was refreshing because I really do love the city. Like, I was there before. I felt very familiar with it. I think once I moved in, my first thought was, let me settle in. Like, let me just unpack everything, kind of get settled, because I was starting work relatively soon. I think I got there on maybe a Friday, and I was like starting work that Monday. So I was just like unpacking, just trying to settle in. My friends who I knew prior, we had dinner together, so like it was great. But again, it was also end of February 2020. So Europe was already like, I wouldn't say starting to shut down, but everyone was very cautious. Um I would say now, when it comes to building community, one thing I did was I signed up for school. So I applied for my MBA program. And I thought, what better way to make friends is classmates and colleagues. So I signed up for school. Another thing which was, it just so happened I went to the gym, and there was one person of color. So we can definitely talk about that later, where, you know, Poland is predominantly Polish people. So there was one person of color who I saw in the gym, and I was like, yep, he's going to be my friend. I was very animate about him being my friend. And then he disappeared, and I couldn't find him. And I was like, oh, I missed my opportunity. But then I was walking to work, and I saw that same guy again. So I stopped him. I was like, oh, excuse me. I was like, where are you from? And he was like, oh, I'm from Panama. But let me not say it like that, because he looked at me like I was crazy at first. Like, he was like, hi, I'm from Panama. And I was like, oh, I'm from New York. And he was like, I love New York. And like, you're the most popular person in the room when you're from New York. And he became like my best friend there. He introduced me to his friends, and him and his friends literally became like my Krakow family there. Um, so I would say building community was at first a little difficult, because the culture there is very closed. I would say is a good description. They kind of just stick with themselves. They don't talk to strangers. I'm from New York. I'm used to talking to strangers all the time, but there, if they don't know you, they won't speak. Um, there was a few times where if they did speak, it was mostly because they knew I didn't speak Polish, so it would probably be a foreigner asking me for directions or something. But it was, I would say, if anything, it was lonely. Cause yeah, it was. I kind of just stuck to myself. Like I would just have my headphones in because I'm like, I know no one's gonna talk to me. um, but once I did build that community, it was like it literally changed my whole perspective. Because I would say that first year of lockdown, like no, you really just had no one. It was me and FaceTime.
Yeah,
My I think after 2 weeks, everything shut down, and so everyone was working from home. The only thing opened was the grocery store and the pharmacy. That was it. Like they locked down weeks before New York. Like it was crazy. But so after that first year, I would say when things started opening up, because I started school in October of 2020, and I think that's around where I met my friends, and I think that completely changed my perspective, because that first year was tough, but I think it was tough on everybody.
yeah, and that makes sense because you got there's a couple of things that are brewing, right? So, when you talk about a lot of European countries, for the most part, they're very homogenous, right? Not like the United States, how it was formed. A lot of them was like, hey, like what you see is what you get, right? And so that can be very challenging because it might be you run into a lot of folks where it's their first time seeing a black person or a person of color,
Yeah.
right? And so I will say this, like my experience being in Europe is like you will get stares, right? But it's not like, hey, we come and hurt you and get you. It's more so like I've just never seen nobody who looks like you before, right?
Yeah, more so out of curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like it's bad, saying like here where it's like if you're in the wrong part of town, it's like, okay, y'all, let's step on the gas, right? And so but there's still that isolation piece, right? Because you're in a land, on a land where you don't know the language. You look different than everybody else. And then on top of that, we got a panini that's brewing, right? And so with the pandemic, like what did that look like as far as like not only trying to adjust in the middle of a pandemic, moving to a new country, but then also like what does that look like with those nuances of also being like a person of color, being a black person in a totally new country as well?
Yeah, it was honestly it was a lot. Like it was moving to a new country, not knowing the language, starting a new job, a new role, not having anyone with you. It was a lot to take on. I can admit that, and I wouldn't say I would change my decision of going, but maybe the time I should have went should have been different. But as a person of color being there, I would say during the pandemic, like I said, it was lonely. I was just in the house all the time. I did start running. I would say that was probably the best thing that came out of the pandemic, because I'm not a runner. I go to the gym every day. I'm not a runner, but now running is like literally part of my routine. But yeah, like I said, it's a very close country, or close culture. So no one would speak. You would get stares. I've never been in a situation where I felt unsafe. So that was one thing about the city I really love. Like it's a very, very safe city. There was like one situation I can think of where someone came up to me and was like, "Oh, I love dark skinned women." And in America, I would not be considered dark skinned, right? So it kind of took me back, and I was like, okay, thank you. And I just kept on my way. But there, like I said, there was never, and even if, let me put this disclaimer, even if someone did, let's say something in Polish, I wouldn't understand them anyway. So, but I will say that I did get some not nice comments on YouTube. So I did, like when I did my video on like culture shocks or something about Poland, where normally it's pretty positive. There were comments of like, Black people shouldn't be here, or you need to go back to America. You and your people need to leave the country. So there was like a few things, but YouTube like immediately took those comments away and discarded them. So, but again, they're saying stuff behind the screen. I've never felt or heard anyone say anything to my face.
Got you. So we didn't have to worry about the keyboard gangster showing up in person or anything like that.
Mm-mm.
Jesus is real. Jesus is real. And I think that What's funny to me though is like one of the videos that kind of resonates with me the most from your YouTube channel. It's gonna be crazy, but like when you were talking about like the grocery stores.
Oh,
Like I
yes.
know because I love food, so I gotta eat, right? And so it's just funny like hearing that. But can you talk about like because one of the things is like the grocery store was one of the few things that was open during the pandemic, right? So what was this adjustment like shopping over
Oh my gosh. I I actually enjoy grocery shopping. I like to cook, so I love to like be in the grocery store and like, you know, fresh produce. But Poland gave me a whole different perspective. One, there's no preservatives in the food. So everything you buy is going bad within a few days. I mean, from the bread to the fruit, everything goes bad within a few days. So you have to adjust from the culture of, America that uses preservative when you go to the grocery store once every 2 weeks or so to a culture where you go to the grocery store multiple times in a week. So that was one adjustment that I was like, this is for the birds. I don't got time to be going to the grocery store multiple times a week. So I did start meal prepping a lot there because at least my meal preps cooked food saves a little longer. But that was, I would say, the first adjustment. The second shock with the grocery store is personal space. Like I love my personal space. It's my area, stay your distance. It's also COVID, right? You would think people would stay, 5 feet away or a meter away. They didn't care. I mean, they were reaching across you or, right next to you or bumping you to try to reach something. And it was literally like chaotic for me. And I would have to, like, I was at the point of trying every week, I would try different days, different times to try to figure out when would be the best time where no one is there. And it ended up being Saturday mornings at like, I think the grocery store opens at 6. So I would get there like maybe 7 in the morning because normally people go out after work, they're drinking and stuff. So they're not up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. And the grocery store was amazing then because it was empty. You can shop because remember, everything's in a different language. You also have to convert. Like for me, I would like to convert to see what the price would be in US. I was like, oh, how much is this in US? You have to convert the currency. Try to read what ingredients are. So the grocery store was a process for me. And it was really a process. And then I think the final aspect was the checkout people. So the employees who are checking your food out, they're like scanning your food and throwing it to the end of the, I don't know what to call it, the aisle. No, the
little belt
checkout.
thingy,
Huh?
the belt thingy.
Yeah, the checkout belt.
Mm-hmm.
So they're scanning your food and just literally throwing it down there, and you have to bag your own food. So, you're trying to bag it. For me, I have OCD, so I like to bag things a certain way and make sure things aren't getting squished, make sure something's not melting. And as I'm trying to do that, they're already scanning the other person. And I'm like, wait, I need to pay. Like, hold on, pay. I would pay. And as I'm trying to finish bagging my groceries, they're, throwing the other person's stuff down the aisle. And it it was just very chaotic for me. I would say by my second year, when I started kind of getting into the swing of things of going at 7 o'clock in the morning when no one's there, it was a lot better. But if there were a situation, after work on a Friday, and in Poland, everything is closed on Sundays, un- unless there's seven shopping days out the year that things are open. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, it's closed. So your only time to go grocery shopping if you work like myself would be Saturday. So if there was any situation where I would have to go to the grocery store on a Saturday afternoon, or no, I would just wait until after work on a different day and hope that, people don't go to the grocery store.
Okay, and I'm guessing it's packed on Saturday night because it's gonna be closed the next day.
Exactly.
Sheesh, that's tough. Okay.
Yeah. And then, that brings me to another point where, like, I didn't know that. So, for instance, Christmas, my first year, I didn't know that they shut down, I think, on the 23rd, the 24th, Christmas Monday. Like, so it was my first year. No one was like, "Oh, Natalie, the grocery store's not going to be open for 4 days," and I was sitting there starving. So it was, it really was interesting, the things that you don't think that you should know, or like people don't think that they should tell you, where it's like, I don't live here. Like, I've never, this is a completely new place for me. Like, you should tell people that. So that was like another reason I was like doing YouTube, because I'm like, people need to know these things.
Yeah, that's facts. That's big facts. I mean, we got to know, like, hey, like it's gonna be jumping. The grocery store gonna be jumping on Saturday evenings, y'all.
Right, right. But I will say one thing about the culture that I noticed is they have no problem waiting online. And
Mhm.
I was told it's from like the Holocaust era, where they would have to wait online for food, and it was just a very difficult point of their culture, where it's like embedded in them, where you have someone like me who's from New York, I'm about logistics, I'm about efficiencies, and I would be online like, what are we waiting for? What is the problem? And yeah, they have no problem. Like, if there's a long line or a long queue for like ice cream, and I'm sitting there on the line, like, all you're doing is scooping and passing. Like, what's the problem? Like, so that part was also a thing for me over there. But I would say I definitely built up a new level of patience.
Mm.
Just that.
That's key right there. I think that's one of the things I'm always taken aback from when I go to Europe is like patience, right? Because I'll be in line 2 minutes. I'm over here like, man, this don't make no sense, right? But here it was like people, and I don't know how this is in Krakow, right? Because I've never been, but like people actually take time to like enjoy the simple things in life. Like, I was over there in Europe and I saw people like sitting in a cafe, like reading a book, not on their phones, but like reading a book, right? Like people be on the train, like reading books. People go to the parks, like they'll lay a blanket out and just be out
Oh
there.
yeah, I was just gonna mention that they would go lay out, read a book, sunbathe, and I'm like, yeah, I don't got nowhere to be. Like, go there. Yeah, but that's actually goes into a really good point. So one thing I noticed, that was a shock for me, was that they work to live. They don't live to work. Whereas in America, we live to work, right? And I always called it my Americanism. So when I would work, I know I'm a workaholic, and I would say Europe tried tried to teach me otherwise, because especially in Poland, work life balance was it's embedded in their laws. So, for example, if you're working and let's say an escalation comes up and you end up getting off work at midnight, it's embedded, like they have a law where you cannot start work until 11 hours later, because you need proper rest. So you cannot start work until 11 a.m. the next day. Now, if that happened in the US, my behind would be right at that desk at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
Like nothing, like clockwork. So it was really interesting to see that their well-being was prioritized, like even down to the laws, as well as, when 5 o'clock or 5:30 hit, it's like, goodbye, and I'm like, oh, don't you have something else? This isn't finished. And they're like, oh, well, I'll do it tomorrow. Like, it was just normal to go home, have a life, not sit at your desk until 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Like I said, 8, 9 o'clock at night. So for me, I was usually the first one there and the first one and the last one leaving. So I would say it's very hard for me to break the habit, but it was really refreshing to see.
I think that's an amazing thing, because sometimes I feel like we miss out on things in life, right? Because it's like we always get into this mindset we working towards the next thing, right? Or it's like I feel guilty sometimes for like just trying to sit still, right? I got to be doing something, and it's amazing to see, because sometimes I think we dismiss that from saying like, hey, well, it's America, right? This is why you're busy, because you get all these things that come with living in this country, and then you go to these other places and be like, well, they got everything we have too. maybe even a little bit more safety, and like they're not working, you know what I'm saying, the way I'm working, right?
Yep.
And I think that's a good point because as we look at it, right, it's like one of the things that kind of took me aback too, when we talk about like just like a quality of life, right?
Hmm.
One, I was on a train in London, it was like rush hour, and I saw like school kids like riding the train home by themselves. And I'm like, bro, like that'll never happen where I'm from. Like, some public transportation, and these kids are like in middle school at best. They just riding the train, having a good old time, right?
Clearly not from New York. I'm like, that's the thing here.
Nah, because look, if I had a daughter, like, nah, we'll get you to school. Don't worry about it, baby. We get you to school, okay? And the other thing too is just like when we look at don't nobody vacation like Europeans. When they go on holiday, they go on holiday. I mean, I was over there for 9 days. It's like, this is a short holiday. I'm like, what you mean? I'm about to lose my job. I'm about to forget my job by the time I get back, right? But can you talk about, because one of the things I did see was that while you were in Europe, you did travel to a lot of different like European cities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like, how did that work-life balance play into you, like being able to move around and afford you like that work-life balance?
I would say what it did teach me was to use my holidays. My friends, and it was mostly, I would say, because of my friends. Like they were like, how many days do you have? Why you got so many days? I'm like, oh, well, I carried over 10 days from last year. They're like, you didn't use them? Like, it was like such a shock. And I think it was my second year there. And they were just like, all right, we're going here. We're going there. You should go here. This is a nice place. Like they were giving all these recommendations. I'm a big birthday person. I like really try to do it really big for my birthday. So I was going different places for usually every October for my birthday. One thing I will say how I like to give the comparison is how we travel to different states in the US, they travel to different countries. Like I don't think anyone realizes like how big the United States is. Like Europe can easily fit into the United States. So it was really easy to move around. The public transportation was amazing. So I've taken trains to different countries. I've taken buses. I didn't think I would like the train because I like to get to my destination and kind of enjoy being there. But the train was actually really relaxing. I always did first class, but first class was like maybe 10 or 20 euros more. It wasn't like that big of a difference. Um, Now the different places I went to were like I would say every place I've been to that has not been I haven't I feel like I enjoyed myself. I had some letdowns. Like I had high expectations for some places, some letdowns, but it was just the fact that it's usually really cheap. I know you mentioned earlier uh EasyJet. I'm a Ryanair kind of girl. So
You gotta talk.
Ryanair would get me where I need to go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so like traveling was they. I feel like what made it worse was that I already loved traveling, and they made it acceptable for me to just go to this country for a weekend, or um, I would say you could work from the London office, or like it just made it really easy to kind of just experience another place for a very short period of time.
Yeah, because it's interesting that you can just hop around, right? I know, like we went from Paris to London, and it was a 2 hour train ride, right? And you chill, pop on the Wi-Fi, do some work on the computer, or watch a movie,
Yeah.
and you back in a different country, right? And it's fairly inexpensive, right, to get around. So that's the cool thing about it. And
People thought I was lit. Let me tell you, my
look,
family thought I was making big bucks, and I'm like, y'all, it is stupid cheap to travel here. Like, I really don't think you understand. Because I was getting paid in that currency, so I was getting paid in Zloty, which there was comfortable, but like if I came back home, it's not comfortable at all. So for people who have not experienced like traveling internationally or even experienced currency exchange, they just didn't understand like how I was able to do all of that. And it was just when you have a round trip ticket for $40 to go to London, Why not? So
Big facts. Big facts. I've been like skeptical to fly Ryanair, but like I said, like I fly Spirit.
why?
Man, I heard somebody say they be selling stuff on the plane. Like,
So what? You don't have to buy it.
what they be selling?
Perfume, like just random stuff.
Nobody come down the aisle like, hey, you need some cigarettes, my friend. You need. I'll need a
Yeah,
cigarette.
like they have like a little catalog of stuff you can buy. I guess they try to make it seem like it's like duty free, maybe, but you don't gotta buy it. Just keep your headphones in, act like you don't hear them.
Okay, because they look now. This one thing I will say is, Ryanair, like the flights, the fares be crazy low, like for real. Like the
Yeah.
only thing about them for my last trip, why I didn't book anything, because they be on the outskirt airport sometimes,
Yeah.
and especially with London, I was looking this up. I'm like, bro,
But
this like,
I was gonna say, I was just about to say, but when you go to the London airport that's in the outskirts, if I'm not mistaken,
like STN or something like that.
yeah, there's a train that goes right into London. Like they have the public transportation. It was actually like I was like, oh, I would fly here all the time.
Dang. Because I would have definitely got over with that flight deal if I would have took that one. But when I looked up like the
Yeah, the
commute,
train. I think the train might have took maybe an hour,
I could
maybe
do
an
an
hour and
hour.
a half, but it was a straight flight. Like I think it was like the Elizabeth line or something like that. It was really like seamless.
Okay. You know what? I'm gonna have to check Ryanair out next time I'm over there. Then you got me because look, I love a good deal. Look, people be laughing. You talking about you fly? I say, look, I'm a Delta Medallion member, but I also fly Spirit. Like, don't look. If it's a good deal, I'm on her. Now I got rules with Spirit. Look, it's gotta be nonstop, under 3 hours, and I'm taking my little cheap bag. That's all. You know, that's my carry on. So, um, but I love a good
Understood.
Spirit. But yeah, I know you talked about some letdowns. So
Yeah.
we got to talk. What cities let you down?
Paris. Paris let me down.
Mm,
Yeah. I don't know. I would say disclaimer, everyone. I know it's the city of love, so you should probably go there with a significant other, right? But I don't know. I just thought Paris was going to be this elaborate city and it was dirty. It smelled really bad. The Eiffel Tower is extremely rusty. Like I was just really upset at what the hype is about it.
mhm.
And it was expensive. The food, I would say the desserts were really good, but the food wasn't that great for me. I also don't eat meat, so I'm pescatarian, so I still eat seafood. But yeah, the food wasn't all that. I did spend a lot of money shopping. I will say that a great place to shop. It's very expensive, but found some really great things. But yeah, Paris was a letdown for me. And I would say London was the first time I went because I feel like London's just too big. Like it just takes so long to get anywhere. Um, and I would say I could be biased because New York is also very big, but I'm from here, so I know where I'm going, and
Mhm.
it's not that big of a deal for me. But there, I'm not from there, so it was massive. Like I was like, why is it taking an hour every time we're trying to go to a different place? But I did go back to London for Notting Hill Carnival, which
Okay.
then changed my whole perspective on London because I had the time of my life. It was amazing. So I would say those are the only two places that I would say were letdowns. And then I went to Ibiza and Mykonos on the off season. So I was expecting to party my life away. I expected not to sleep. I expected just to go crazy. And those were probably the most relaxing trips that I've been on because it was off season. So please, everyone, please check wherever you're going. Make sure you're there for when it's in season versus off season because you will get a completely different experience.
I agree. You know those islands when it's off season, it's like you just see the tumbleweeds just blowing through. It's like okay, This is
I
cool.
mean, it was so relaxing. I mean, I was sunbathing. I was like, oh, okay, let me read a book. It was not what I was expecting. I was expecting a whole different experience.
Great point about London that I did not know before I went, right? London is big as hell.
Yes.
Big as hell. And it's like, I don't think people realize that because, like, my Americanism, as you would say, right? I'm like, well, like from the States, I've been to New York, I've been to DC. And I started looking stuff up. I'm like, London has almost triple the population of New York.
Mm-hmm.
And the city is a lot older. So a lot of the roads, more you get towards central London, just ain't really built for cars, right?
Yeah.
And so my homeboys, and the Ubers are expensive, y'all. Like I'm talking
Yeah.
about a Uber from the airport to your Airbnb might be like €100 easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn that train real quick. I was like, €100 versus €8. Google, show me how to get on this train, and we gonna pray.
Yep, I was on the bus.
But even when you do take an Uber, because you're like, well, hey, like I ain't got to worry about the headache of navigating. It's like you might. This happened to us, right? We had reservations at Copacabana, something like that, where they had a little igloo joints right by the Tower of London. And mind you, it's 6 miles away from our Airbnb. We called it Airbnb. It takes us, we called it Uber. It takes us 2 hours to get there. Why are you not? It takes us 2 hours to go 6 miles, right? And the last mile took the longest, right? So we ended up hopping out of the Uber, rented some bikes, and just rode over there, right? And so on the way back, I told my friends, like, yo, like we can't keep doing this, gonna miss all our reservations. We're gonna have to learn the train system. And so we were able to learn the train system. We spending like €3-4 a pop. It's really inexpensive. It gets you where you're going. And the people, like, if you got lost, like, people would really help you. Like, okay,
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah, that was one thing I would say I wouldn't expect that I enjoyed that people spoke English. Like coming from a city where all I hear is I was hearing Polish or even other languages to actually hear and understand, I was like, oh, this is amazing. You can help me. Can you show me how to get here?
Yeah. Yeah. That, what's crazy though? That's one of the things that was like really surprising about Berlin. I didn't expect to like hear that much English. And like when I landed in the airport, like I heard people speaking English. I also heard a lot of people speaking in German, but like if you spoke English, like they would respond in English. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right, this is different because it wasn't what I was expecting, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was super awesome. But when we talk about like just moving around within these different cities, I know we talked about, you going to London, you going to Paris and being let down. It's cool. I wasn't there for long, so I really can't give like a.
I I would say I enjoyed Bordeaux in France. I really enjoyed Bordeaux. Like I would definitely recommend that. But yeah, Paris it just doesn't do it for me. Maybe I'll revisit it in the future, no time soon. Even from my graduation, my family. So I graduated in October, 2022, and I had 14 family members come to Europe, and not only come to Europe, come to Poland, and they were like really big on trying to see like other cities while they were in Europe. So they went to Paris and Barcelona, and I was like, guys, I'll meet y'all in Barcelona because I'm not going to Paris again. I was like, I'll see y'all when y'all get to Spain.
That's real because what I did. Like one of my homies went to Paris, and they're telling like, yeah, the people are rude as hell. So just be prepared.
Yeah.
And they rude. They are rude.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's cool. It's cool.
I'm gonna still go back, but I think like you said, I'm gonna try to visit some other parts of France and see how that goes.
Yeah, I would definitely, like I said, I would recommend Bordeaux. I did want to visit more of the south of France, but I'll get there. I'll get there.
That's fair. You covered a lot of ground.
Yes, I'm leaving for India in 2 weeks, so
Word.
for work.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah, it just doesn't stop. It doesn't stop for real.
Yeah, that's lit. That's lit. I need a job where I can travel. That's my goal right there, right? But yeah, so like when we talked about like just being in Poland, what was it like on the dating scene being out in Poland?
Oh man. So I actually have a really funny YouTube video on this. So I would say after because when I moved to Poland, I would say I was just getting over a breakup. We broke up in August. I would say I got the job in September, but due to visa and working documents and all of that, I wasn't able to move until the end of February. So I was completely content of being, just working. It was COVID. I would say the first year I was like, I'm good. I'm not even gonna do this to myself. I would say the second year was when I was like, okay, we're going outside. So I'm a little more open to dating. And like I said, people don't talk to each other. So I wasn't expecting someone to come walk up to me and say something. So I decided to go on Tinder because that's what they said is the app to go on in Poland. Everyone's on Tinder. And it was a nightmare for me. It was it's a hookup app. So people are just messaging me of like, all these things they want to do to me. And I'm like, no, thank you. What do you like to do? What's your name? Like, like it was a lot. And I would say um I was fetishized because I'm considered exotic. Like I don't look like anyone there. And it showed on those apps. Like it was like, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful. Like I love your body. And it's like, oh, thank you. Yeah, it's just so voluptuous. It's so, and I'm like, I'm not even that big. Like, what? And it was like, it was just men, like, just like literally drooling over my body. And I'm like, I get it. I don't look like anyone here. I'm not shaped like anyone here. Like, they're very thin over there. Um, it was awful. Um, I did end up going on, I think, 3 dates, and I was done after that. Each date was either a cultural disconnect, where like one date was really hard. Like he didn't speak very good English, so I felt like I was speaking for me and for him to try to understand. Then there was another date of this guy where he basically told me we were going to get hot wine, which was a thing in Poland, and he ends up bringing me to his flat, and I was like, "Why are we here? Like hot wine's at the bar." And he's like, "Oh no, I have it here. I have some in my house." And I'm like, "Oh, huh." And then he ends up like he brings out the piano, the guitar. It
Damn.
it was like a whole concert.
Shit.
It was a
Okay.
whole concert, and I was like, I'm gonna go. Like this is like he was like, I'm gonna set the climate, and I'm like, the climate. I'm thinking, and so I'm like, it's not even cold in here. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he like turns the lights down and lights the
Ooh.
candle. I said, oh, you're setting the mood. Oh yeah, I'm gonna head out. I'm gonna go. Um, and then yeah, it was, and I will say that I feel that Europe is very sex positive, so very very open to you know doing all kinds of things, which is fine. There's no judgment here. I'm just not one of those people. Like I need to know who the hell you are. And it was it was really I think after the third date of just experiencing someone who was literally just either trying to have sex or there was just a huge cultural disconnect where I was like, this is weird. Like, this, like, you're not even, we can't even communicate. Like, how is this going to work? I think I was done. I was done.
Did you
I
try some of
also,
the hot wine?
I will, huh?
Did you at least try some of the hot wine, or you was like, I'm out?
I did try some of the hot wine.
Okay.
It was like microwave hot wine. Like, I was like, you couldn't even have got the good stuff. Like, what is this? But I did also try Facebook dating, which I would say was a little more intentional. But yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't for me. Mm-mm.
Okay. It's cool. So we had the three strikes and we was out. We was out.
Yeah. I was over it. I was over it. And I also I would say like everyone, I have a type, and I feel like the type that I like is not in Poland.
Okay. Understood. You know, it could be tough. Something. Well, did you like ever like meet somebody in like just a natural setting outside of an app that you was like maybe this could go somewhere, or it was like just never the opportunity presented itself?
No.
Okay.
And let me tell you, my friends were animate about finding me somebody because in their mind, they were like, if I found someone, I would stay. They knew that I wouldn't say they knew I wanted to leave because I never really wanted to leave. To be honest, I still didn't want to. I wish I was there, but you know, money talks and I walk. But they knew if like maybe I found a love interest, like I would at least have something that could hold me there, keep me grounded there. So yeah, it was like a whole. My friends would have this whole it was called like Natalie and Krakow, like this whole production of like trying to get me on a date or like they're sending me different people. And my friends had, just because I work out, like they feel like I have to be with a gym rat, so they would send me all these different trainers, like pick one, just pick one and let's go on a date with them. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. No.
You got some good friends. They was trying hard.
They no, for real. They I would say they were trying hard. Like we would go out. They're like, you don't see anybody? Anyone pique your interest? And I'm like, no, I'm just here to have fun.
That's
So
what's up.
I am picky though, so I get it.
Okay. No, that makes sense. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. You know, definitely had to hear it from you and see how that went. Did
Not
your
you
friends,
laughing at me my struggles.
yo, because like the hot wine just got me. My man was over in the middle of a ballad, like on a piano. You just walked out on him. That's messed up.
No, seriously. He was I'm a whole concert. Mozart. Like and like it was one of those situations where I was like looking around like, yo, am I getting punked? Like, is somebody playing with me? I'm like, no, he's dead serious. Wow. Okay. And then I went on a date with this one guy who was from France, and he actually was cool. I was like, okay, cool. Um, but he was too like touchy for me. Like I was like, bro, stop touching me. I don't know you like that. Um, and then I think that next evening I went out with my friends and he was on a date with someone else. And I was like, ooh, they move fast. He was like, oh, she don't want me next.
Yeah, I feel you on that one too. Cause like when I like be, you'll see people when they be talking, they be like right here, and I'm like,
Yeah,
hey.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, all right.
Yes. Like I had one guy where he was like, you're not gonna give me a kiss goodnight. And I was like, no. Like I just met you. Like, what are you talking about? I don't even know you. I don't know where your mouth been. It's COVID. Like you
Not
can
the yeah.
but so there was a lot of situations where I don't know, it was just uncomfortable. It was weird. But I like I said, there really wasn't anyone there for me. Mm-mm.
If anybody's listening in Poland, you might hey, maybe Natalie didn't see you, so
Maybe, I would say I will mention the fact that I did find it really interesting, the relationship dynamic in Europe. So, for example, a lot of people would move to different countries for their significant other, where in the US that is like forbidden. Like, God forbid I say I'm moving to Florida for a man. Like, it's just frowned upon. Where there, it's like, oh, yeah, my girlfriend lives in Switzerland, so I'm gonna move there with her so I could be closer to her. Like it was very normalized, which I thought was really interesting. Um, and like I remember asking one of my friends, like, like what if it doesn't work out? And they're like, oh, well, then I'll just live in Switzerland. Like I would say because of how easy it is when you're part of like the European Union, you can like transfer everything over to a different country, makes it a lot easier. But I don't know, that part was like that's a big commitment to move to another, country or we could even say state if we're talking about America, for someone else when y'all have only been dating for like 6 months. But they date like super intentional there, and like, you know, like they're like, all right, you're my person. I'm gonna move for you. I'm gonna do what I need to do for you, which I feel is not the same dynamic in the US.
Okay. So are you being in the US now, like are you missing some of those qualities over there in Poland, even though you didn't find your match?
I would say yes. One thing that I thought was really interesting was a lot of men would, you know, the biggest thing is like, oh, I can't wait for you to come home. Like, you live too far. You know, I can't wait for you to come stateside. All of this, I can't wait. I can't wait. Like, why can't you move back? When I did move back, crickets.
Damn.
Like, I haven't heard from any of them, but I will say that my schedule is crazy. Like, I moved back 2 weeks later, I was in Dubai. You know, in 2 weeks, I'll be in India. I think in June, I'm in the US for 6 days. Like, I'm in India for 2 weeks. I come back for a few days, and then I'm back in Europe for Beyonce in Poland and then Afro Nation in Portugal. So I know my schedule is crazy. But yeah, there's no intentionality here. And that's okay. You know, like I get my schedule is crazy. I also know, like I said, I am picky. I know my standards are high, you know, so it is what it is. I'm not mad.
Hey, when it happens, right?
Yeah, I'm in no rush. Like, I still got a lot of traveling to do. If I find someone who's trying to travel with, great. If not, I'll see you when I get back.
I'm guessing that's why they call you Nonchalant Nat, huh?
I think so.
That sounds about right. It's a very fitting name. I know you talked about you got some trips that you did, right? So you did Afro Nation where last year? What was that?
Portugal.
So you did Afro Nation in Portugal. You did
This is
St.
actually
Patty's.
going to be my third time going.
Third time going. Yeah, because
So
I saw the story. You burn a boy right there. Like, I'm like, Last was playing before he even hit the States. I'm like, okay.
So my first year I went, they canceled Afro Nation, but you know, everything's still booked. So I was like, I'm still gonna go. And people said that they were gonna still go as well. So it was actually really crowded the first year. And Portimao in Portugal is amazing. What I ended up doing was cutting my time in Portimao short. So I ended up going to Portimao, Lisbon, and Porto, which I would say Porto is probably my favorite place in Europe, probably top 3. If you can go. The wine was amazing. The views were amazing. The vibe was amazing. Like, definitely recommend. Then the second year I went was last year, and because it was the first year back from COVID, lit. It was lit. I usually get the hotel that's like right there by the concert, by the festival. So it literally it's such a different vibe from American festivals. Like, people are just there for a good time. I would say I didn't see really any fighting. Like, people are just vibing. The artists were amazing. It was like Burna Boy, Meg The Stallion. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was DeVito. Yeah, it was Chris Brown. Like, it was great. I definitely recommend. I think this year is also Burna Boy. I think it's gonna be 50 Cent. I'm not sure why he's going there, but he's there. But my line sisters are actually piggying back off my trip this year, so they're coming with me to Poland for Beyonce because the tickets were so much cheaper there.
Yep.
And then they're also coming to Afro Nation, and I already told them I feel a way that they didn't come to visit me in Poland, but they're coming to see Beyonce. But that's a whole nother story. They're like, well, we're coming with you. I'm like, yeah. But you didn't come visit me, but it's okay.
But they coming. They coming to be in the number with the Beehive and all that, because you know the Bayhive and all that good stuff. You know. So no, that's dope though. I think it's cool because like I'm not really like a big festival person, but like seeing your story, I was like, this is dope. Like it's definitely a vibe.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think over there it's like it was because like I like my space because I like to dance and I don't like people bumping me. And I think Afro Nation last year was that vibe for me. Like it wasn't crowded. Crowd. I would say you can go like try to get really really close to the stage. That's where it gets crowded, but you can have your own space and just dance and vibe and drink and just have a good time.
And be merry. That's all it's all about. What about St. Patty's Day in Dublin? Like, what was that like?
Oh my gosh. That was amazing. I was told that, America kind of really does like St. Patrick's Day and not necessarily Ireland, which I don't think that is true because Dublin St. Patrick's Day was amazing. It also was the first St. Patrick's Day after COVID. So it was like everyone came. So it was packed. But I think it was also because it was the one after COVID that people were just happy to be outside.
Mhm.
And people were just so welcoming. They were so nice. I'm not a fan of Guinness, but I was drinking Guinness. I also don't understand how people can drink 6 pints of Guinness. That's a whole nother thing. But it was just such a good time, just such good energy. Um, the parade was actually really, really cool to see just the different people in the parade, whether it's like their police officers or different organizations. It was really, really interesting. I would say I was actually surprised how diverse Ireland is. It's really, really a diverse I would say I would say Dublin. Dublin was really, really diverse. But I would definitely recommend. I actually think I'm gonna start making that a thing, like trying to go to different places for with it, because I'm really big on culture and like just experiencing different cultures. So, for example, I think next year I might go to Mexico for like Cinco de Mayo, or just try to really experience different cultures during like their one of their biggest holidays or something along those lines because I will say I really enjoyed Dublin for St. Patrick's Day.
That's dope. We wanted to take that trip. So it's just something on the bucket list. We're gonna try one day to get over
You
there.
should, you should. I also had friends in Dublin, which I think is also really cool. And living overseas and just meeting people like you, I have friends in Vienna, in London, in Dublin, in Poland, in Germany. And now I'm at that point where it's like, hey, I'm coming. Like, can I stay with you? And so it's really cool to actually utilize or even not even stay to just meet up with people and they know the ins and outs of the city and they know where to go to. So I think that's also a benefit as well.
It's nothing like being plugged in, especially when you're in a foreign country because they can show you the ins and outs. They can get you to some of the tourist attractions, but they also can show you like the locals how they move, and you save a lot of money if you got friends in different places. So
Absolutely.
it's super important. I know, like growing up in America, like I was always taught like you don't talk to them people, like you don't know them like that, or it's like you always have your guard up. But one thing that I've seen is like just meeting other people. Like they really, most people have your best interests at heart, right? Of course, you got to you still stay vigilant of your surroundings, but people are generally trying to help you, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful thing because when you are able to meet these different people, you be like, oh, well, I got a homeboy here. My homegirl stay over there. They live here, right? And so that was one of the reasons why when I was going to London, I called one of my homeboys. I'm like, yo, I know you're doing an art residency in Berlin. You want me to pull up? He like, yeah, bro, come through. So I'm like, all right, bet we going to Berlin, right? And so was able to get to Berlin. Ain't know nothing about Berlin, but all right, like Hitler, Holocaust, bratwurst and beer, right? That's what I'm thinking, right?
No, not Berlin.
Man, and whoo, I'm not gonna steal your thunder, but I know you went to Berlin for New Year's. Let's talk about Berlin. Let's talk about Berlin for a little bit.
Let's talk about Berlin because I literally told my friends, I don't know how to top that. Like, I'm actually going to Ghana this year for New Year, so I might be able to top it.
Mm-hmm.
I might be able to, but it was so I would say Berlin is a city that you don't think you're in Germany. Um, it's very open. It's very it's like a free spirit. I feel like is Berlin. And my friends were really animate about going there for New Year's. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll go. And we get there, and the first thing they want to do is go to Kit Kat. And now Kit Kat is a sex club, and it is a club where you have to, it has a dress code, a very strict dress code of like latex, leather, nothing, um, lingerie, like, you know, that's literally, if you Google it, that's what you see in Google Images. It's a lot of leather, latex, and just shirtless or nothing. And so I was like, okay, I'm Googling it. And I'm like, this is like, is this real? Like, this doesn't seem real. So I'm like, okay, well, let's try it. Let's do it. We're here. This is one of those clubs that people say like you have to go to one time in your life. Let's do it. So we get dressed. I tell my friends, and I'm with two gay men. So I'm like, guys, I don't know. They had just like a black t-shirt, black jeans, and I was like, I don't know if that's gonna cut it, but let's put a collar on you. Let's add some accessories. Let's see what happens. So we get there at 10:30. The club opened at 10, and the line was around the corner. So I was like, ooh, we might not get in. Um, but let's try. And at this point, I seeing people fully dressed. So I'm like, what the hell was the point of us, wearing this outfit if, people are fully dressed? And then we got to the front of the line, and you just saw people just like stripping down, just taking their coats off, and they're having like all these different like super interesting costumes. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So and now with the dress code being strict, they can literally look at you and tell you, no, you're not getting in for no reason at all. They don't have to give you an excuse. They can just say, no, you're not coming in. Like it's actually like really interesting. Um, so for me, he looked at me and he was like, oh yeah, you're coming in. I was like, okay, great. And he looked at my friends and was like, and I was like, please. And he was like, I don't know, sweetheart. I don't know if that's going to work. And I was like, pretty please. And he's like, sincere with you. Like, come on. I'm like, yes, we're in there. So we get in, and there's like a changing room, and it's a changing room as well as you have to check your phone because there's no phones allowed. You check your clothes. Um, and, if you have any bags or anything, you check. And I think that's in the changing room was when I realized that, like, oh shit, like we're in a sex club. Like you literally saw people, like the only thing this one man had on was a silver cock ring. Like, no, seriously. Like, I mean, I was like, oh, girls in full fishnet, no panties, no bra. Men in little latex underwear, like the little tighty whities. Got men in full thongs or jock straps. Like it was like full blown, no rules. And I'm like, okay, now I have on a corset and like leather leggings. So I'm like, okay, I felt overdressed. Like I was fully covered. Okay. And so we end up getting in. My friends had to like take their shirt off. They actually had to take their pants off because there was no jeans. So we get in, and it's literally like something out of a porno. Like, I mean, and I'm trying to keep it as PG as possible, but I mean, like, full blown head on the dance floor, full blown sex on the sex swing. Like, it was just very sex positive. Like, there's like no judgment. There was no like, I would say icky, like, ew, what are you doing? Like, it was really just like people just watching, people participating. There was like a candy store that was probably all drugs. It was a pool in there. It was like a BDSM whole bottom floor. There was a BDSM show where a girl was like wrapped up in rope hanging from the ceiling. It was something that I literally thought a rave would be, but on a whole nother level. Whole nother level. Strongly recommend to at least do it once in your life. because it's something that you wouldn't believe. Like it's like no way this is happening. Um, but it was I was just taking it all in. My friends were just like, "What the hell is going on? This is amazing! Like holy crap!" Um, but I would definitely recommend that. And then just like the fireworks, the we actually had like a traditional German like meal for dinner. Like just the parties, the house parties. Like Berlin was really like it was amazing. It was just a very open and just good vibes, a good time. Just super memorable. Like I can honestly say that's like top New Year's of my life was in Berlin.
Yeah, Berlin is just a different city, and I think it's like it's not one of the cities when people start from the states talking about like going to Europe, like it's Paris, London, Madrid, Barcelona, right?
And
You
it's funny you said it because I went to Berlin for my birthday last year because I literally Googled like top places to go in Europe and Berlin was one of them. So I was like, oh, let me check out Berlin. But I went by myself. So it was a solo trip. So I did all of the touristy things. And I actually went to the club by myself. The club was a good time. Ended up meeting some guy who like was my tour guide for the rest of the weekend that I was there. So when my friends wanted to go to Berlin again, I was like, oh, guys, like I just went there. But they were literally, when you Google like top places in Europe to go for New Year's, Berlin was number one. And I was like, all right, let me give Berlin another chance. Like I thought it was pretty cool, but yeah, I would say New Year's in Berlin it was epic.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the cities. Like I only spent about 2 days there. I flew in, got in and got out, and so did a lot of walking and going to see the touristy stuff. So definitely got to go back. But it was
Trying to go
definitely like,
Kit Kat? Trying to go?
what? Look, we got to make some plans. Look, because it was like I was mad because I was like the reason why I did it so short because I was like it's Berlin, bro. Like I'm going to see my homeboy. I'm gonna check out a couple of things, and then that'll be it. You know what I'm saying? And I got there and I got off that train into the city. I'm like, bro, it's just a different feeling being in Berlin. Like it's like so, and it's not like I think a lot of times we start talking about different things like being free and being open. It also still means having respect, right?
Yes.
And that's one of the things that I really like love about that city, where it's like, hey, have fun, do what you want to do, but be safe and respect others, and you can definitely feel that in the culture. So we got to run it back, Turbo.
Yes, yes, definitely. Like I said, I would definitely go again. I know Kit Kat is one of the clubs. There's also Berg High, I think it's pronounced Berg High or something. Berg High. I forgot how you pronounce it, but my friends were like really animate, like, okay, we did Kit Kat, now we got to do this other one. Like this one is supposedly a higher class club versus, I guess, Kit Kat's more of a raw, very I would say raw is a very good word we're gonna use because it was like wow, like it was a lot. Like if you're not um I would say open minded, it would be a complete disaster for someone. But yeah, I would definitely go back.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things I will say this too that you touched on as well is like I was blown away by the food. And I know you probably can attest because my homeboy, he is vegan. And we went to like a vegan ramen spot. And I'm like, bro, like I know this shit about to be trash. I just knew in my head, but I'm just like, you know what? It's cold as hell outside. There's something warm. I'm gonna eat it. Man, I got in there and I was like, we coming back because I need another bowl. This fire right. This miso right here. This little mushroom they put in here, bro. Like it tastes like meat. I'm good.
It's it's so funny you say that because my friends like Vietnamese food. And in Berlin, I guess they have unlimited Vietnamese food. And it was to the point where I was like, y'all, can we please eat something else? Like it was good. Don't get me wrong, it was amazing food, but like there's but so much Vietnamese food I can eat. And so even to this day, they make fun of me. Like when they were planning my goodbye brunch, they're like, "Oh, let's go to Vietnam," which was a Vietnamese food. And I'm like, "No, I'm not eating Vietnamese food for the rest of the year. Like I'm done." But the food was really good there.
Yeah, food was fine. I actually went to a Nepalese restaurant while I was out there, and I'm sitting there like, I'm sorry, Johan, like, where's Nepalese? Like, on Nepal. I said, well, where's Nepal, bro? He was like, it's in Asia, bro, by the mountains, the Himalayas. I was like, okay, let me Google this real quick. But nonetheless, the food was fire, man, and Berlin was a good time. Nat, before we get up out of here, I did want to give you a chance to just share with folks, any last words you got for the people. What would you like just tell folks and get them advice as far as just traveling, living different places, and being open to new things?
I would say be open. Say yes. There's times where it does seem scary. Moving to Poland was not in my plan at all. But I would say moving to Poland changed my life. I got my job here, which I'm now an executive director at a different investment bank. But I don't think I would have been at this level if I didn't have that managerial experience, the international managerial experience, my MBA. Like, I got all these accolades from just saying yes to going overseas. And then as for traveling, be open-minded. There's hundreds, thousands of different cultures. Be vigilant, but also have a good time. One thing I noticed in Europe is that people are just free spirits. Like, they're just there to have a good time. And I think that also changed my perspective when I go out. Like, I'm not one of those individuals that need alcohol to have fun. Like, you just have fun. Enjoy your experience right now. Like, this is your life. You're living it. And then I would say last but not least, I'm trying to think of a good one. I was gonna try to say something about dating, but clearly that was a fail for me. So I would say follow me on YouTube, but really just honestly, I really want to say that truthfully. Be open. Try to learn the language. I did try to learn Polish, or at least try to learn, like, greetings and just like very day-to-day, like very little speech if you want to. I'm actually learning Italian now. I'm going to Italy next year. That's one thing. I have an appreciation for language now. So just be respectful, be open, and just have fun.
No, we definitely appreciate that. And where can the people find you if they're trying to see what you're up to next?
So on Instagram, my Instagram is nonchalant_Nat. On YouTube, it's the Chronicles of Natalie. My last post was me, saying goodbye to Krakow. So I'm trying to revamp like what my new series is gonna be. Because moving home has been DIYs and trying to get my house back together. So I'm like, that's not too much fun. But I will be posting the videos of Dubai, and I actually went to Dreamville Festival, which was dope.
Shout out to Raleigh, 919. Shout out to Raleigh, North Carolina.
Dreamville was probably one of the best festivals I've been to, and I'm really like, in the United States, it's definitely the best festival I've been to. That was awesome. But yeah, follow me on YouTube, follow me on Instagram. Not that into TikTok yet. But for the most part, I'm very active on Instagram for the most part.
Definitely. Y'all pray for us millennials trying to learn how to use TikTok, because I'm
Let me tell you, please pray for us, because that TikTok, tic-tac, whatever you want to call it, is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And my little cousin's like, Natalie, you just got to do this. I'm like, just send it to me.
No, I feel you on that one. Definitely keep us uplifted in prayer. Definitely appreciate you for coming on and just sharing, your story. It's amazing. I'm glad to be able to follow you and connect with you on that level, because it's dope, just see people and doing what they want to do, right? The other thing I want to leave y'all with before we get out of here is the wondering tip of the week. And so we do know that flight prices are crazy this summer. They are crazy, because I'm looking and I'm cringing, because I usually book my trips in advance. So all my stuff has already been booked. But
right.
I'm looking at these flights. I'm like, yo, just to fly domestic, they want like $300-$400. So for my people out there, Frontier has this Go Wild Pass. And yes, Frontier is a budget airline, but if you do it right, you'll be fine, right? So Frontier has launched this new program called Go Wild, right? It was on sale for the whole summer for $999, which was just $1,000, right? Now it's on sale until May 31st for $499. So for $499, you can fly for pretty much on standby for the whole summer with Frontier. The only thing you have to pay for if your baggage fees and then the taxes on the flight. So you can see, like, if you utilize this thing right, it'll pay for itself within a couple of, trips. So keep an eye on that.
Domestic only?
No, it actually goes to some of their international locations as well. So Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, Mexico, and the Caribbean and Central America as well.
Not bad.
Yeah. So like if you see your boy in Guatemala, I'm on Frontier.
I was gonna say, are you gonna do it?
I'm about to go ahead and buy that thing. Yeah, I'm about to go ahead and buy it.
All right, we'll let you be the test buddy, and
Hey, look,
you let us know how it goes.
I'm guaranteed to get stranded at least one flight per summer. So I'll definitely document the chronicles for y'all. But we're gonna do it. But all in all, Nat, thanks for being on with us. We appreciate you. If you guys need to follow us, of course, follow us on all streaming platforms, the THEE Travel Hour. And then you also can follow myself on Instagram at the Zigster, THE_ZIGGSTR. And then also my co-host, MP, according to the number 2, MP on Instagram. But Travel Hour family, it's been a dope episode, a great vibe. And we are signing out. Catch y'all later.
Thank you for having me. Good luck, travels.